Hi, Clam here. So today I'm going to talk about how I learned 5-ish languages throughout my entire life while using each of those languages respectively. So here we go. First off, it's Mandarin. 中文是我母语，我从小到大和家人朋友都是用中文沟通，小学、中学都是去中文学校。我在学校是学简体字和汉语拼音，但是繁体字我也是会看，我只是不会写。然后其实我讲中文的腔调平时不是这样字正腔圆的，我和马来西亚的朋友家人都是用马来西亚的中文腔调来讲话。比如说我不想吃了，我们会说我不想吃了嘞，这样。关于马来西亚的中文腔调以后可以出一集慢慢详谈，太多东西了。但是在中国生活了1年多，我也会就是转换成这种比较正统标准的中文腔调，然后也会就是偶尔使用上一些只有在中国比较常用的词汇和语句，比如别出什么幺蛾子了，这咋整啊，这种等等，还有一些国粹也学到了。So I learned ancient Chinese literature in school, like 文言文, and I would say that I am quite in touch with ancient Chinese history and traditional Chinese culture. We also follow a lot of the Chinese traditions in Malaysia in real life, and I find that really fascinating. I also follow modern Chinese internet culture, like there are social media, the Chinese equivalent of TikTok, YouTube, and Pinterest, which are Douyin, Bilibili, and Xiaohongshu. And I think like Western audience is missing out on something really interesting, and I think Western audience deserves to know about this. So as someone who is like following both sides of the media, I really hope to like bridge the gap between Chinese internet and Western internet through this podcast. So this is one of the main missions of this podcast, I would say. So I'll frequently share Chinese cultural tidbits by incorporating it with interesting media elements like games, like shows, like Chinese pop culture and memes. So of course, I think some of you are very familiar with some of them, like Genshin, like Chinese Danmei, and if you guys follow K-pop, you probably know Lisa went on to the Youth With You. So this kind of stuff, I'll try to share it to the Western audience in the future. But if you are seriously learning Mandarin and you want to improve Mandarin listening, you could also support me on Patreon. I will make Mandarin podcasts exclusively on Patreon, where I share more about these Chinese cultural tidbits in depth, and I will explain the nuances behind these with Mandarin, of course, and also with some English for better understanding sometimes. So if you want to improve Mandarin and also learn interesting Chinese cultural tidbits at the same time, you can stay tuned to my podcasts on Patreon. Okay, moving on to English. So I also learned English in school since young, and I would say I have a relatively strong foundation in English because I was English educated in kindergarten. I only switched to Mandarin from primary school. So what I did to maintain and improve my English throughout these years was during my teenage years, I read a lot of those YA novels. Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, Hunger Games, Divergent, the whole package, the entire extravaganza, and a lot more. And one of my really favorite authors was Khaled Hosseini, and like the one who wrote The Kite Runner. I really like a lot of his books. I was also, I would say, more in touch with Western media in my teenage years, so I was following like English pop culture. I was following Tumblr, Twitter, even AO3, you name it. Yeah, so I have like no problem with reading, writing, and listening in English. But as you can probably hear from my English, I kind of still cannot speak English 100% fluently because I lacked a speaking environment. So now that I'm out here in a Western country, I hope to improve that. But if you want to have an idea of how my English proficiency is actually like, I have a certified level, which is IELTS 8.0. So yeah, lol. Okay, next, it's Malay. It's my national language. So, saya juga belajar BM di sekolah sejak kecil. Walaupun saya dah belajar selama 12 tahun, tapi BM saya masih tak fasih sangat kerana jarang digunakan. Saya hanya cakap BM semasa pergi ke pejabat kerajaan atau semasa pesan makanan dengan orang Melayu atau orang India. Yeah. And it's been so long since I had to use Malay on a daily basis because I've not stayed in Malaysia for so long now. It's getting like really, really rusty. And my Malay is mostly just on a conversational level. But it has come in handy when I was working in my internship. When I encounter like Malaysian policy documents and even Indonesian policy documents, I can understand a bit of Indonesian because they use some similar words as Malay. So yeah, I guess that's quite useful if I want to work on Southeast Asian issues in the future. Okay, so the fourth language is Japanese. じゃあ、せーの。高校1年の時、アニメを始めてみた。好きなアニメキャラのセリフをよく分かりたいのために日本語をちゃんと勉強したいと思った。そしてデュオリンゴで日本語を勉強した。ひらがなとカタカナはすぐに覚えた。でも文法はちょっと難しいと思います。大学2年の時、日本語の授業を選んだのでいろいろ勉強した。でもそれは1年前の話だった。今はどんどん忘れている。残念。So I can pronounce Japanese with mostly no problem and sing to my favorite Japanese J-pop songs. And my Japanese listening is quite okay, but I still need subtitles to watch anime. My grammar is rapidly deteriorating, as you can hear from my Japanese just now. And because I seldom speak Japanese in real life, so I really got to practice more to improve. So one day, hopefully, I might find some time and I can spend a longer duration in Japan to fully immerse myself in the environment. I've never actually been to Japan, so I really look forward to the chance of like maybe taking a Japanese language class there for 1 month, 2 months probably. So why did I learn Japanese? As I said just now, I was a weeb and I still am. So now I really just pride myself to be able to enjoy Japanese culture more in depth than before I had zero knowledge of Japanese. So now I have some favorite J-pop songs and artists I listen to, and also I can watch Japanese anime. I can sometimes identify when the subtitle translation is not the same as what they're saying, like what they're truly saying. So I think I'm quite proud of myself for that. Anyways, next we have Cantonese. 其實咧，我嘅廣東話都係麻麻地啫，識聽唔識講啦，都係睇 TVB 同埋聽 radio 學嚟嘅。而家同香港朋友可以講少少啦，仲可以唱少少廣東歌咯，like Beyond 啊、Eason Chan 啊，咁樣咯。So Cantonese people, they write Chinese in a very different way to Mandarin. I can roughly understand what they're writing because I have a lot of Canto friends, and I will try to pronounce it in Canto when I encounter it, but I still got a long way to go if I want to speak Cantonese really fluently, as you can hear just now. So I think I just love learning different languages and different dialects as a multilingual, and I hope to learn French in the future sometime, and I also know some Korean phrases through K-pop, though not much. So I think through learning languages, I can discover the similarities and differences of each language. For example, between Mandarin and Cantonese, or Malay and Indonesian, and Japanese and Chinese. It's really fascinating how they share same or different aspects, same words, different meanings, same words with similar pronunciations. It's like a treasure hunt, it's like a treasure hunt, when you actually discover these stuff. And also how languages evolve in different cultural settings, like what I mentioned just now, like how Mandarin is spoken differently in Malaysia than in China, like how we speak it in a flatter way, or like we use different words, different vocabs. I find these stark differences really, really interesting. It's a lot to learn. And also I can like better understand what certain things mean in a specific language context. For example, like language puns are more fun if you actually understand the languages involved. So you won't feel like a fool when you just see like people making jokes of like this language or that language. Wait till I introduce you to the Mandarin puns. They're really hilarious and sometimes really smart. Really. So I'll be sharing more about being multilingual in depth in the future. And besides that, I will also mostly focus on sharing Chinese cultural tidbits to the English audience through fun and interesting means like games and media, like I mentioned just now. And of course, if you are a Mandarin learner, please remember to support me on Patreon. Stay tuned for that when I actually start uploading Mandarin podcasts. I will, of course, notify you guys. So that's all. Thank you for listening to this episode and see you in the next one. Bye!